Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is a frequent flyer on the show and prolific writer, Tanya Sousa. She's here today to talk about yet another upcoming book. Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Thank you, Scott. Glad to be here.
You've been on, I don't know how many times.
Maybe 3 or 4?
Oh, you've been on more than that. Between the two shows you've been on almost since the beginning.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe 5. I don't know. I haven't counted. It all seems so natural. It flows.
Yeah, because I know you are on far bigger networks probably than NEK TV and JJ Country.
No, I don't think that's true. But I love coming here.
Right.
So you mentioned I had a new story.
Right.
Other than Tossing Stars came out in the spring.
Right.
But I have a new one that I'm working on, and the reason I'm talking about it a year in advance is because books do take about a year, picture books do take about a year to take from draft to illustration to production to the publisher coming out with it. So I thought it would be a good time to talk a little bit about the process of it, why I chose the topic I did, the illustrator working with me, and so forth.
Right. So you're a fiction writer? Is that?
No, I'm a writer. I write fiction and I write fact, so nonfiction too. I've written for magazines and anthologies like the Chicken Soup for the Soul books,
Okay.
which are nonfiction. They have to be true stories. And this next book actually is a true story. And I gave a little teaser about it on my Facebook page about some pictures of my dog from my childhood.
Right.
And I said, I'm here because of her. I'm alive today because of her. And I didn't say more. Right. And everybody clamored, you can't leave it like that. You have to tell us what did she do? How did she save you? And I said, well, there's a book coming out about that, so you have to wait. But I'm going to reveal it on your show.
Oh, okay, that's good. I was just thinking, I asked if you were a fiction writer. Of course you don't just write fiction, because I write history and you contribute to the journal.
That's right, of course I do.
Yeah, so, of course, you're a multi-talented writer.
I am multi-interested writer, for sure. I don't know about the talent, but I'm interested in a lot of things.
Right. So, take it.
Okay. So the story is about 2 children, my sister Karen and I, who were rescued by our dog Simba. When we were little, I was probably 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old when we got Simba. And my sister is 7 years older than I am. And we had a place that we landed in Vermont, in East Albany, which was a big old, defunct farm. So the farm had a big old barn and a farmhouse, and it was a very, very bad winter. So with that said, I'm just going to show you first a picture of Simba. This is a picture of Simba at about the age that she saved us.
So what was she, a shepherd?
She was a mix. She was an adopted dog, and that's the beauty of it, is that she was a rescued dog. So with that said, can I read you the
Sure.
text? There are no pictures to this yet, but I think people will hopefully see what I'm doing with it, because it's short. Spring, summer, fall, or winter, Simba wagged me to the best places. She found woodchucks and partridge nests. She barked me away from skunks. She wiggled me to giggling in the grass or snow. We rescued her from a shelter, and she became a wise, happy sister. Simba's perked ears and still body helped me catch snakes and frogs. She was proud of me with her wide dog smile and squinted eyes. One day there was a terrible winter storm. Snow fell heavily for 2 days. Simba ran outside and back in again, shaking off a wet white blanket. When the sun came out, the world was a vanilla milkshake. Simba play bowed and eye twinkled me to my winter jacket and snow pants. We all raced down the hill. Karen and I held our sleds tightly. Simba grabbed our boots and snow danced away. Simba was Karen's sister, too. Later, Karen and I wanted to visit our shy barn with its old piles of hay and dark corners. We liked how it talked to us in friendly creaks. But Simba growled us away from the door. We stepped back, but she still paced a warning. Karen and I made snow dinosaurs instead. Mom and Dad shoveled the house roof. Simba worried back and forth until she was by our sides in a blink. A loud crack cut the air. I felt it in my chest. We watched as the barn fell under the weight of too much snow. There was nothing left of the shy barn but a heap of wood and parts of lonely walls. Simba love-leaned against me, and I love-hugged her back. Then we all hugged when my parents came down the ladder. We fed Simba her own steak and vegetables for dinner. She licked her thanks, but we were the grateful ones. She rescued us. My parents let her sleep on my bed that night. She deep-sighed her happiness. I was glad she'd become our wise sister. The end.
That's great. So do you think Simba could hear the creaking that you couldn't hear?
I'm sure. I don't think there was anything magical about it, but I definitely think she heard something that was troubling to her, obviously, because she was extremely unwilling to let us go through that door.
Right. So how old did Simba live till?
She lived to be 12 years old. Not long enough.
Right.
But so I have some pictures of her here too. There's a picture of her with my sister Karen when my sister Karen was in college, and that's probably about a year before Simba passed away. And then a picture of me when I was probably about 15, and Simba, it was probably around the same time. So she was a big part of our lives for 12 years. It seemed like forever, but not long enough at the same time. She was very special.
Right. And off that topic just a little bit,
Sure.
I followed you on your Facebook with you ended up having a newborn kitten end up in your lap,
Right.
with no mother.
Right. That's another story that maybe will be written down someday.
Right.
I brought some pictures of him too. Adopted animals. I want to segue into that. Rescued or adopted animals are, in my opinion, the best animals. Not that there aren't some wonderful dogs and cats that people can buy, but there are so many animals that need homes, and they can bring so much to your lives. Like Simba, obviously saved us. The cat you're talking about, his name is Sirius Black, because, not just because of the person in the J.K. Rowling series, the character, but because he was rescued by a dog and came into our lives that way. So one morning I got up, and in a nutshell, we found this little creature in our dog yard. It was a freezing cold, frosty September morning, and the little the kitten was there without eyes open, ears still, just getting off his head, maybe a day or two old at most. And no mother to be found anywhere. We looked, no other kittens. So we ended up taking him in, bringing him to Thank You, the Frontier Animal Society, the Pope Memorial Animal Society. They had a lactating mother
Right.
that they put him with, and that was the picture they sent of him when he was, I think, about 8 weeks old.
And didn't you say that you knew you had a stray cat around?
Well, we didn't, at that time we didn't know. I mean, we
Right.
have a barn where we are now too, and certainly cats come and go, neighbor cats come and go,
Right.
but I hadn't seen any cats we didn't recognize that we didn't know. So anyway, we ended up taking, just to finish the story about Sirius, the dog star. Oh, I didn't tell you that Nova, the dog, was the one who found him in the dog yard and stood vigil over him. So this is him when he's almost a year old. So he is living with us now. We adopted him as soon as he was able. The cat that was in the barn, we didn't know about her, but we started seeing signs that maybe there was an animal in the barn that we didn't know about other than raccoons, skunks, and the neighbors' cats. So we set up a webcam. And so after, probably about a month after, we got this picture of a black cat in the barn. And we figured, we'd never seen it before, it was probably the mother. And it was the mother. We ended up trapping her through, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get the name right, but is it Kingdom Animal Shelter?
Yeah, I know.
It's not a shelter.
No.
But they help trap.
Yeah, they've been on the show before.
Yes, they're wonderful. And I'm embarrassed that I can't remember what the name of the organization is. But anyway, they helped us trap her. We had her spayed and neutered. Spayed in her shots. And we were going to release her into the barn, but I ended up keeping her too. So this is Sidel. She was a barn cat. She was considered feral, but just a note about feral cats, they aren't always as feral as they seem if you give them time. It didn't take her, well, it took her some months in a room by herself with me feeding her until now she sleeps against me every night, all night. She doesn't leave my side. She's on top of me or next to me every minute.
And wasn't she a wild child at first?
She was.
Yeah, because I remember, because I think you even questioned whether you were cut out to be its human mother.
Well, I mean, she was, they said she was feral, and she wouldn't really let us touch her for a while.
Right.
And so I would go into the room and just kind of sit in the room and spend time with her. And, you know, it just took time. And then one day, you're not supposed to do this, but I read animals' language. I watch what they're doing and saying with their bodies and their voices, their sounds. And anybody can do that. So I saw that she was kind of wanting some sort of contact. I felt she was. So I was feeding her one day and I started to pat her a little bit. And then I just kind of scooped her up and held her in my arms, and she looked shocked. She didn't bite, she didn't hiss, she didn't anything. She didn't want to stay there long, but she didn't, she didn't run away immediately.
Right.
So then I started doing a little bit of that, eventually putting her on my lap. And over the months, she was fine.
Right.
It took some months, but it was okay. Better than having her in a barn alone.
Right.
And Simba, part of the reason I wrote the story I wrote for kids and for the adults who read it, and I'm excited about it coming out, is because, I don't know if you noticed in the text, it talks about her body language, Simba's body language, and it talks about the sounds she'd make and her wide dog smile how I knew she was proud, how I knew she didn't want me somewhere. If my mother hadn't taught me to respect and read the animal's language, Karen too, Karen and I may not be here today, because we may have just said, oh, stop being silly, get out of the way, go away, and gone inside that barn anyway. And we would have been inside the barn when it fell. So there was a video, in fact, I saw. Do you remember when that man was bitten by a beaver, and the beaver slashed his artery in the back of his knee and he bled out and died? Well, I watched the video that he took because he wanted a photo op. So I don't know if it was his friend taking the video, I'm guessing. But he's approaching the beaver, and the beaver gives him what every animal, even humans, will give. Mrs. Simmons, my teacher in middle school, gave this look. It's kind of like a sidelong look. They don't actually look at you, they just kind of stiffen up and look to the side.
Right.
And give you a sidelong glare without actually staring at you. And this beaver did that to the guy several times before he continued to go toward the beaver. And then the beaver had enough and jumped toward him when he was near enough and bit. And of course, unfortunately got a very bad spot. If that man had listened to the beaver's body language, he would have said, okay, and walked away.
Well, you go out to the Grand Canyon. There's signs all over the place. Stay away from the elk. Because the elk appear tame because they're used to people.
Right.
So what do people do? Does signs say, stay away? what do people do? They go right up to them.
Right.
And occasionally something bad happens.
Right.
And then they're all shocked, like, how could this be? Well, the sign said, stay away. Mm-hmm. And they're there for a reason.
Right. And 9/10 of the time, the elk or any other animal will give you the warning to stay away as well, not just the human sign that says stay away. That elk will usually, maybe it will lower its head, or it will do something, it'll snort. It's going to do something that gives you the idea that maybe you shouldn't be so close. Every now and then an animal will just out of nowhere charge you. But 9/10 of the time, they give you the chance to back away.
One of my sons, well, both my sons are long distance runners, and they, one of them, he and his wife go around the country running, hiking, and he was up in the Canadian Rockies on a running trail, and he ran right onto a grizzly.
Oh boy.
That was feeding on the berries, and I can't remember, but I think he kind of like did one of those Michael Jackson things and did a backslide. But he says that bear looked at him like to say, "Hey," and went back to eating. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of slithered away. Probably went and cleaned his pants out. Yeah. But yeah, I actually have a dance with my female golden, and my male golden is my dog. My female golden was Penny's dog, and as you know, my wife passed away, who you graduated with.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And so her story, I can't say we rescued her, but they're from the same litter, but the woman who had taken Molly ended up getting cancer, so they put out a call saying, hey, does anybody? So we took her at 9 months, and but Molly had lived with this older woman, and I know there has to be something about it, but she's ingrained to loving women, and she absolutely loved Penny, and she's this dear dog. But if Penny could go up, take anything out of the dog's mouth that it weren't supposed to have there. Even when I even look at her when she has something, she'll go, "Urgh." And so we do get in tussles occasionally when she really has something she isn't supposed to have. And I've tried to watch her, after Penny died, unfortunately, died of cancer, just like Molly's first mother died of. I don't know how they grieved, but I can say they did absolutely love when, during the final months when her house was abuzz with people. Yeah. And so afterwards, you could see there was such a letdown. And I have to believe that Molly must have, in some level, understood her mother was gone.
Right.
But then when my niece comes in, Carissa, who looks a bit like Penny, a bit, when she comes in, it's like, wow, a woman here. But Carissa has she really likes Carissa. But any woman to come, she just loves. But Carissa's special to her. But if you came to the house, I would be chopped meat. You would be the rock star.
Oh, and, I am a rock star.
No, that's true too. Yeah. So dogs and cats and all animals are interested in that way.
What were you going to say though about the dance? You said you did a dance with her?
Oh yeah, no, we do a dance about.
Oh, that kind of dance. Not literally, you don't take her paws up and dance.
No, it's the dance of when, because Molly is this super gentle dog, sweetheart of a dog who has put in a couple.
Wow.
She gives me plenty of warning. But she has a propensity to eat up things she isn't supposed to.
Right.
Penny could walk right up to her and say, Molly.
Right.
And she'd just give it to her. Me, it's like, no, I'm not giving it to you, no matter how bad it might hurt me. And
We'll give you a little tutorial on being alpha. Penny was probably the alpha dog in your house.
Penny was the alpha dog.
So you need to be the right. You need to learn how to be the alpha. But that's.
Oh no, Penny had a
another thing, I
loving
guess.
way with. She just.
Oh, you can be loving and be alpha.
No.
Yeah, being alpha isn't being mean necessarily. It's just being. It's an energy.
Right.
Yeah, we can teach you this.
Right.
We'll work on that another time.
Hey,
So-
here's one story about Boulder the male though. When he came, we'd just gotten a kitten too. When he grew up, when he was growing up, and for the first 2 or 3 years, he would take that cat by the back of the neck and carry it around, and the cat would be just having a grand old time.
Cute.
There's a lot of cats that probably would have taken out his eyes.
Well, but he probably knew. Again, they have their
Yeah.
body language that they also share with each other. So he probably wouldn't have done that with the cat if the cat had
Right.
given him signals, hissing, arching the back, growling, running, whatever, whatever body language he gave the dog that said, "Don't you touch me." So luckily, our dogs and cats all get along very, very well.
Yeah.
So
So when is this? So is this a
yeah.
is this a book? Is it a story or is it?
it's a
mixed?
picture book. It's a picture book.
Okay. Okay.
So it will be for children. That's why it's written the way it's written. I've written the story before as an essay, sort of like a Chicken Soup for the Soul,
Right.
True story, but for adults, describing the event. But the way I described it here is for children.
Right.
And I have an illustrator that this one I'm going to work with Atmosphere Press, who did Tossing Stars with me, but I'm going to take more of a lead role on how it's done. I want this one. This is a love project for me, like the Starling God was. This is a heart project, and I mean I love all my books, but this is special to me. So I really want it done the way I want it done. So I looked online for Vermont illustrators because I generally want to work with Vermonters. And I found a wonderful woman named Marcia Blanco from the Burlington area. And I saw, these are not from the book, these are illustrations that, or just drawings she's done in general. So, she's just amazing. She has done scientific work. She's done cartoony work. She can do just about everything. She likes detail the most, and she is a rescue dog believer. She can do people. So, her pictures also cover people. Like, look at this beautiful picture of a child sleeping. That one's not in color, but look at that.
I'm so envious of artists because I have no talent at all when it comes to art. It's kind of like putting me up on the stage and asking me to sing. I would be held responsible probably for making people's ears bleed. So,
Well, we all have our talents. You're an interviewer and a historian and all of this wonderful stuff. You're good with people. But anyway, I met with her, with Marcia. She's agreed to do the illustrations, and she'll be working on for the next year on them. So the kicker is I'm doing this myself, so I'm going to pay for her myself, not a publisher. I am going to do a Kickstarter campaign. I'm paying her the first piece to get started, and then I'm going to do a Kickstarter campaign showing a couple of finished illustrations that she will do and some sketches for the other pages that she's going to do, and then try to pre-sell books in advance to raise money so that I can come out with a book the way I want to come out with a book. I want it done a certain way. So, and our aim is to have it come out with Atmosphere Press, and Marcia and I agree on this, is to have it come out on, I believe I want to say April 30th. I don't know if I have the date right, but it's National Adopt a Pet Day. And that is what our goal is, to have the official release, although it may be out a little earlier than that. But the official release will be on that very appropriate day, because Simba was adopted. All my animals are adopted. I don't buy pets because there's so many that need homes.
So are you saying you're self-publishing this one?
Well, Atmosphere Press is a hybrid. Cheers. I'm
Yeah,
not drinking wine.
No.
No. It's a hybrid publisher, so they accept you or not.
Right.
They do the editing, they do all the graphic arts, they do all that work. They put it on Amazon. They get your not copyright. Well, yeah, your copyright, I guess, your ISBN number.
Right,
That's
right.
the word I'm looking for. And they put it on their website and they do stuff like that. So they're like a real publisher, but you have more control and you pay for a portion of that.
Right. Oh, no, that's, yeah, I would say then you are going through a publisher then, but you do have your autonomy at the same time because,
Right.
So do you have any other works?
Yes, there's a book that I had done with Radiant Hen Publishing that was called Life is a Bowl of Cherry Pits, and it actually won a Silver Moonbeam Book Award
Right.
back when, I think it was like 2010 or something, that it won the award. And I have the rights to that. Radiant Hen is no longer. And I need to work it out with the illustrator to make sure she's 100% on board with that. Katie Flindell, who also illustrated Tossing Stars for me. And I'm hoping to come out with that reprinted with Atmosphere Press because it was a wonderful book. It did very well. It sold thousands of copies, but could have kept going if we had more. And Atmosphere Press, it's different now because Radiant Hen, you print books, so they would print 2,000 books, and then all of those would have to sell. But with Atmosphere Press, it's print on demand, so you don't have a whole bucket load of books in your house or in their warehouse that they're trying to sell. People could buy cases of books, or they could buy a single book. They're printed to go, and it's much cheaper that way. It's amazing. I thought it was going to be more expensive, but it's cheaper for me. It's cheaper for the illustrator. It's, when we want to buy some and sell our own.
Right.
And, it's no more expensive for the buyers out in buyer world.
Yeah, because, you and I both know even the way we have to buy our books has changed over time. Like it used to be, if we were going to buy a bunch of them, the more you pay, the more you
Right.
bought, the cheaper they were. And it's come down now, but now you can buy them per book.
Right.
But I haven't done that yet, but I'll have to talk to you more about that because I'm actually in the process of reprinting another book just because I'm low, and so I kind of judge how many I need versus, I'd like to have a few on hand, but I don't want to buy like 1,000.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you would be happy with that. But we'll talk more about that
Right.
later. And I'm very excited for you. You're reprinting it.
Yeah, well, I've reprinted I've reprinted all of my books, but I think this will be the last one of the reprints I ever do. Then I'll have to force myself to actually do another book. So
You told me to stop you from ever doing another one,
well,
but I'm not going to.
Well, no, for what I compare it to from listening to my wife is when you're giving birth to a baby, when you're actually giving birth, you're saying, never again will I do that to myself.
Right.
But then once you get done and you're holding the baby, then you think, well, that's okay. I'll do that again. If guys had to do that, the human race would go extinct.
Right.
But, and I always say that once the book comes out, it's like, well, that wasn't too bad.
Right.
Maybe I'll do it again. I haven't gotten that urge. Of course, the last 2 years as Penny fought cancer, I've had to put that,
Right.
those ideas.
Right. Yeah, you had to caretake.
Yep. So we only have another minute. What
Oh,
more
wow.
would you like to say?
I would just like to encourage people to adopt.
Right.
Let people know that I'm on Facebook.
Right.
And I will be announcing the Kickstarter campaign when it's ready there. It'll probably be a few months.
Mary, I know what a Kickstarter program is. You do, but just
Yeah.
what is it?
Kickstarter is a fundraising platform for people who have a creative endeavor, and they're finding money to fund the creative endeavor. So basically, what I think I'm going to do, or what I'm pretty sure I'm going to do, is basically you're pre-selling the books. If people choose to put in more, they might get some other benefit out of it. But it's pre-selling so that when that book is done, there's money in the bank to keep it, to make it so, and people know they've got a book coming. Right. So there's no question it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. Right. I love this idea. And Marcia Blanco, that illustrator, if anybody wants to look into her work further, she has a website at www.maplebrush.com. Maple, just like the tree, and brush, like you brush your hair, maplebrush.com.
Okay. Thank you for coming on, and maybe we'll get you back on when the book comes out.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, Scott.
Thank you. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.